What's up?
Hey, Brandon, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for taking the time to do this. I want to ask about Tre'Davious White and just how important it was to get that deal done, and how important is it for you guys to continue this model of draft and develop that you have now?
Yeah, I mean Trey, you want to talk about earning it? You know, he's done it since the day he walked in here, and just so happy for him and his family. It was negotiations are never easy. It took us a little time, but as I said way back when, this will happen at the right time, and I'm happy we got it done before the season. He can take that off his shoulders and just play free and know that he's got financial security for his family, and it's exactly what you said, Heather. It's another way that we can show what we're doing here: draft, develop, re-sign, and it's a commitment from the Pagulas to allow us. This is, to pay a player number one at his position. You don't get that opportunity often, but Trey, definitely earned that. But it starts with Terry and Kim giving us those resources.
So we got Dion, we got Trey, we got Shawn. So are you next then?
I don't know. I'm just worried about what's players and coaches. It'll happen when it's supposed to. Same thing as with the players. Whenever it's supposed to happen, it'll happen.
One more question for you. Looking back on when you first got here and the cap situation, having some very unfavorable contracts and having to make some, at the time, maybe some unpopular decisions, just looking back on when you first got here and now able to clean up that situation, be able to re-sign these guys that you drafted, just, looking back on it from your perspective, how has that been to take those steps year after year to getting where you guys are?
Yeah, it's been a plan all along, Heather, and sometimes it's hard. Not that you never deviate from the plan, but overall, we've had a plan of clean this cap up and then draft, develop, and re-sign those. We want to grow our own guys here. Obviously, part of that process is we had to bring in some players that fit what we do. Maybe a lot of times it was guys that were familiar with me or Shawn or a coach on staff, just someone that we knew fit the culture to help us get this thing going. But moving forward, I think you'll mostly see us now doing this, the Dion Dawkins, the Trey Whites, and the others, that come along with it. Now, as we know, with the COVID world and where the cap's at, there's going to be some guys that we can't re-sign at some point. We want them all, but it doesn't work that way. So we'll probably, we'll get through this season, and then we'll see what happens. We'll see where the cap is. We're planning on 175, but crossing our fingers that we'll be able to get fans in the stands and various ways the league can create revenue to raise that cap above 175.
Thanks, Brandon. Good to see you.
You too.
Hey, Brandon, John Scott, good to see you. Hopefully you got some sleep over the weekend.
Yeah, I feel good now, ready to roll.
You mentioned the cap, and one place that maybe a lot of fans thought you'd maybe try to look for savings would be with Trent Murphy and his contract. What ultimately led you to want to bring him back and put him on the 53-man roster, knowing the savings you could have had if going a different direction?
Yeah, John, I get the question. That was probably more media fan talk than what was in our building. Trent's a guy that does things the right way every day, is a true pro. We brought him here, and he was coming off an ACL that first year. I thought year two, he was a lot better. And then we're looking for year three in this system to be an even better version of himself. We've still got some young guys on the D-line. We drafted AJ. Ed's in year two. Harrison's still a young guy. So his leadership is very important to what he brings, and there's value in that. There's value in the player. A lot of times people get caught up, this number, and these are the stats. But Trent does a lot of things, a lot of the dirty work too. So it's not all about the stats versus the salary with us. And, we're looking forward to, again, year three being an even better year for Trent.
And a follow-up, people will look at the way you structured the roster on offense and maybe think you're definitely opening it up. Reggie Gilliam, we know, can play a little fullback, but Shawn said he's more in the tight end role. You lost Pat to injury. If Hodgins comes back, that would be 7 wide receivers. Are you maybe structuring the roster more to change your offensive philosophy than in the past?
Not necessarily. What I'm trying to do is give Brian Daboll as many pieces as possible, because different teams that we play, provide different opportunities. Some weeks we may be in 11 personnel more. Some weeks we may be running 21 where we want that fullback in there. Some weeks we may want to go 4 wide. So what I want to do is provide him as many options. So no, Reggie Gilliam earned it. And, he is, probably more of a tight end than a fullback for us, but, he's done both. And we like the versatility he brings. He also did a great job for Heath Farwell this summer. And that's important, for a guy that may only play so many snaps on offense. What does he do, on fourth down, so to speak? And Reggie, he's a young player, but we do believe he will add value there.
Thanks.
Thanks, John.
Hey, Brandon, Sal Capaccio. Good to see you, man.
You too, Sal.
Hey, I want to ask about Shawn Phillips, just to show that we are all not as smart as we think we are. I don't think any of us had him making the 53. He kind of flew under the radar, I would say, from practices we watched. So can you tell us and the fans a little bit more about Shawn and what his role is and what he brings to the table?
Yeah, we got some young guys in that linebacker room, after the front three. And, I think one of the things that Shawn, he had a great preseason last year. He was down in Atlanta, caught our eye, but he ended this. They had an injury settlement. He was, I think it was an ankle or something, but we signed him later in the year once he was healthy to the practice squad and was really learning our system and doing well with it. Unfortunately, no preseason, but did a great job of taking the next step in situations in the scrimmage and then also special teams, what I just mentioned on Reggie Gilliam. So we do see Shawn helping Heath Farwell's group a lot. Which plays into it. If you're not starting, especially at a linebacker, those last 3, those guys all have to, play, 3 and 4 phases for us.
Thanks.
No problem, bud.
Hey, Brandon, good morning. Thanks for the time. You've had to adjust to a lot of different rules amidst COVID, not the least of which were these new IR rules. How much, I know Andre and Dean kind of got caught up in the midst of that, with some of the roster shuffling that you had to do. So how have the IR rules, or did the IR rules force you to change your thinking in terms of crafting the roster this time around?
Yeah, we did the roster deal. We did that last year with Kurt Coleman. I don't remember who we added to IR, but same thing this year, with a couple guys that, obviously everybody knew about John, and then Isaiah, hurt his shoulder, missed a couple of days, went in a red jersey for some practices and toughed it out. But this will give him a chance to get it calmed down, and we'll see if he can come back. It's not an automatic, but it does give us that flexibility, and do appreciate Dean and Andre. Those guys are definitely in our plans, just working with us. It's got to be a veteran to do that with that's not subject to waivers. So appreciate those guys working with us for a day to get these other 2 guys on IR so that they can return once healthy.
Thanks.
Thanks, Chris.
Hey, Brandon, John Warrow here. How you doing?
Good, John. You?
Good. Ready for football and hockey and everything else, but hope all is well. Thanks for doing this. Looking ahead to the season opener, and it's against the Jets. You can't help but think that, reflect back to last season when the Bills kind of eked out that victory.
You go. Next question. Thunderstorm. Got him.
Hey, Brandon, Matt Perino here. Can you hear me?
Yep, I got you, Matt.
Yeah, it's funny. Little freeze job there. All right. So Jake Fromm, I wanted to ask you about his summer, his training camp, how he did and how he earned a spot on the roster here.
Yeah. So, quarterback is probably the most valuable position in sports, definitely in football. And we invested in Jake in a 5th round. Unfortunately, no off season for him. He didn't get any reps in May and June. And then, now you come into a condensed preseason with no games, and, Matt Barkley, him and Davis Webb, none of those guys got the reps that they would normally get even in a training camp, much less, 0 reps in the spring. So, I think one of the things Jake did well was in 11 on 11. He did move the ball for us when he had some opportunities. He got better. Still a lot to show for him. He's a young guy, but you don't want to give up on that position this early. You know, I'd hate to release him and never have seen him play in a game for us. I think he's earned that opportunity. And again, now he'll have to turn his attention to being ready, not only due to injuries that could happen, but due to the COVID stuff. So he's got a lot of work ahead of him, but, you know, I think he's up for the task.
And I know how much you guys value character, and obviously, you know, what happened earlier this summer has been talked about quite a bit. How have you seen him respond to that and his teammates respond to him?
Yeah, you know, what I would say is none of us are perfect, okay? And, you know, we've all made mistakes in our life. You know, fortunately for most of us, we weren't in the limelight. We weren't playing for an NFL team or, a publicly viewed position, something like that. So obviously that was a rough moment for Jake. But I thought, considering the situation, he handled it, you know, as well as he could, not only in our building with our teammates, but, you know, publicly just, hey, you know, I got to get better. I got to learn from this. And, I've talked to players on this team, coaches. Everyone understands that Jake made a mistake. He was very humble, contrite, and something that he's got to learn from. And to this point, I think he's handled it as well as as he possibly could.
Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate it.
No problem, man.
Hey, Brandon, it's Kim Jones. How are you?
What's up, Kim Jones?
It's nice to see you. I'll see you. Well, I don't know if I'll see you Sunday, but I'll be there Sunday. So
I'll wave from afar.
Okay, I gotcha. I have two things struck me. Unlike all the other folks on this line, I've only seen 2 of your practices, but 2 things struck me, and I'd like to ask you both if I could, please.
Okay.
One would be Gabriel Davis. He didn't look like I think he was a 4th round. He didn't look like a 4th rounder to me. I'm just wondering your impressions of Gabriel. And also with Stephon, since the day you traded for him until now, knowing you haven't played a game yet, has this thing gone about as well as it could have? Because the chemistry with him and Josh and just the interactions that I watched with him and his teammates, he seems pretty invested, in this new team of his.
Yeah, I'll start with that one, Kim. Great question. So, Stephon really did a great job learning our offense. Speaking of quarterbacks, Davis Webb, did a lot of stuff with Stephon this offseason to kind of help him learn the offense and, from virtual and things like that. And then, he was a big part of that group that went down to Florida with Josh and the quarterbacks. And I think at that time there was a bond. There was a bond before that, but, Josh called and just said, man, Stephon really fits our group. We loved him, fit right in, not only on the field, but off the field. And since he's been here, it's been great chemistry, great communication. Everything I've seen from him and John Brown and Cole Beasley is we all want to do good things so that we can open up, for others. And, we haven't played a game yet, but so far it's been a great mesh between Josh and those 3. And so we look forward to what they'll bring. And then the 4th guy you just talked about was Gabe Davis. Gabe had a really solid camp for us, for a young guy who had no spring. To your point, Kim, it wasn't just the 2 days you were here. He really did have a nice camp. We'll see how it goes. He is behind, those first 3, but I'm sure he'll get some opportunities. And, he also did some things on special teams for us as well. So I would think he'd be in the mix, not only on the offense, but helping Heath Farwell's crew.
Thanks so much, Brandon.
You got it, Kevin.
Hey, Brandon, I'm back. I hate the new normal. We need to get back in the stadium. Screw COVID. It's just stupid. But whatever. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Did you even hear my question last time?
No, I didn't, John.
Oh, okay. Just how much do you think this team has grown from, as we look ahead to playing the Jets in week 1 again, how much do you think this team has grown from a year ago, and how much further ahead do you think this team might be, given how they kind of felt their way through that game and eked out a win?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're definitely a different team, a much more experienced team. First off, we made it to the playoffs, and, you can talk about being in the playoffs. It is different football. Unfortunately, we didn't win that game, but, I've gone back and evaluated some of our players. So you find yourself watching. Even last week, I was watching a player on the Giants, and I pulled up our game just to see how this player played, and I'm watching our offense. And our offense, even though we scored some points in that game, I thought we left some points on the board. and things that we took advantage of later in the year. And so I saw some growth even, from early in the season to late in the year, and just adding that continuity. We wish we'd had the off season, but I do think at this point from, virtually 12 months ago, we are a different team. We're moving in the right direction, but we're 0-0 this year, and every year is a new year. And we lost some guys, and we've got some new pieces. So we'll have to see how quickly this group gels.
Last thing is a question about Matt Milano, and what did he prove to you bouncing back from that injury last season? And how worthy is he being the next guy to be re-upped?
Yeah, I mean, Matt's done everything. You start from here, 5th round pick who's converted safety, linebacker. He plays that outside backer for us and matches up with running backs and tight ends very well, and is a big part of our defense. And he's one of those guys that just seems to find the ball around it, whether it's scooping a fumble up, making an interception, timely sack, whatever. And so, we love Matt Milano, and he's definitely in our plans. Again, we'll see long term if we're able to work something out, but we do hope to keep Matt here for the long term.
Thanks, Brandon.
You got it.
Hey, Brandon, Josh Reed here. Hope you're doing well. Lamar Miller, there's a rumor out there right now that he's been in the facility. Can you tell us anything about that?
Yeah, he has not been at the facility. So the way the rules work is when you're traveling someone up, the day that they get here, you've got to put them as a visit or a tryout, even though they got to go through a couple of days of COVID protocols. So it's kind of a weird process where normally those would be reported either the day they're arriving or after the visit. So we have not visited with Lamar, but he is coming in town at some point, and then we'll get him in here. We'll talk to him, and if there's a fit, we'll see where it goes. But right now it's just exploratory. He was in camp with the Patriots, had a knee injury last year, so long way to go before we would know if we would add him to our roster.
One of the popular storylines, I guess, all preseason was how much the rookies were going to struggle to make a roster and struggle to make an impact and figure it out, right? Apparently your rookies didn't have that issue because they all make the squad. Dane Jackson is brought back even for the practice squad. How impressed were you with the way these rookies were able to pick things up despite no preseason games and just the way they handled everything?
Yeah, they did a great job, Josh. We challenged them back in the draft, and once we got them and just said, guys, this is going to be an off season like no other. You have got to do these things. We're going to lay out a plan for you. Again, we couldn't get them reps here with their teammates necessarily, but some of the guys got together. I mean, I know Gabe went down to stay with John Brown for a little bit, and then he and Isaiah met up with Josh and Barkley out in California, and then Zach Moss joined those guys there, and then the three of them went to Florida with the receivers, and just they did whatever they could to try and absorb this playbook and be around their teammates. And you saw it when they showed up for camp. It wasn't too big for them. And AJ Epinesa, he came in this offseason, did some things. He had a slight hamstring, which we had to bring him in and rehab him, and he did everything he could to get that back and was ready to to roll when camp started. And then Tyler did a great job in his competition with Steve Hauska. But again, nobody's played a game, so we'll see, how it goes. I hate the no preseason game to truly evaluate these players. But to this point, Josh, that group did a great job.
Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate your time.
Josh.
Hey, good morning, Brandon. It's Marcel.
How you doing, Marcel?
Good, man. Good. So it's your 4th year here. If years 1 and 2 were rebuilding and retooling, and year 3 was the resurgence, how would you describe where the Bills are in year 4?
Yeah, I mean, we're hopefully still trending up. We haven't won the division, and to me, that's the goal we have to do, because we need to host playoff games here in Orchard Park, and the only way we get a chance to do that is if we win the division. And we haven't been able to take down the Patriots yet. Nobody has since we've been here. So that's still the team we're chasing. We don't play them until middle of the season, but I'm sure the Jets and the Dolphins are thinking the same thing. That's our goal, and that's our focus. Is we got to try and compete and win the AFC East.
And just to follow up with that, last year I asked you a similar question during training camp. You said you believe the team was right on track with your original plan. As we entered 2020 season, do you feel like you're still on track here? Do you feel like you're ahead of where you originally planned, behind where you originally planned, or what?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're on track. You know, we're getting to the point of building this thing. Again, from my seat, I want to win now, but I also want to win tomorrow. And so that comes with drafting, develop, re-signing. So, you know, now that we know we've got, you know, Stephon Diggs here, who wasn't drafted, but, you know, we traded some capital for. We've got him here for the next 4 years. Deion Dawkins the next 5, Trey White the next 6, and some other young players in the pipe. To me, that's very positive for the Buffalo Bills going forward. Time will tell if we're building it right, if we have the right pieces. But I truly believe we're trending up. We're heading in the right direction. But, you know, results will speak for themselves. And again, until we win the AFC East, I'm not going to feel like we're on track. You know, that's a big hurdle that we need to do here.
It's perfect. I appreciate you, Brandon.
You got it, Marcel.
Hey, Brandon, how you doing?
What's up, Matt?
Hey, what's going on? It's funny, we've talked to you, I don't know, 4 or 5 times probably since the pandemic started, and at every time, you know, the question was, do you think there's going to be football? Do you think it's going to happen? As we reflect on these last 4 or 5 months, however long it's been, to get to this point, for you and for the organization, just what are the emotions like? Because I'm sure you've been more anxious than maybe any of us.
Yeah, you know, it's exciting that we're here. You know, it's disappointing that we can't have our fans in the stands. That's probably the biggest thing that we've got a lot of people behind the scenes that are working, with the New York State government to, they put some great plans together that hopefully at some point, will allow our fans to get in games. And I think that's going to be the hardest part for our players and our coaches, myself, just, not being able to involve them. We all know how passionate this fan base is. And I know just like them, or just like me, they're excited that we do have football back starting this weekend. And I know they'll be in front of their TVs cheering us on, but we'll be, super excited once we can get them back here into Orchard Park and, at our new stadium, Bills Stadium.
Thanks, Brandon.
You got it.
Hey, Brandon. Matt Fairburn here. Thanks for taking some time.
You got it, buddy.
We haven't talked to you since you guys made the decision to go with Tyler Bass as your kicker, and you talk about the goal to, win the AFC East and be hosting playoff games. What did you see that makes you comfortable doing that with a rookie kicker? Yeah,
it's not easy. In these times, as we've talked about, a couple of my answers have been, unfortunately we had no preseason games, but I thought Shawn and Heath Farwell did a great job of putting him and Steve Hauska in what was a very tight competition. We let Steve go at that time just because we felt we had seen enough from Tyler, and in fairness to Steve, hoping to give him a chance to catch on. Steve did a lot of great things for us, and what a pro, was a captain for us. And, he made some big kicks for this organization. And I just, want to publicly thank him. So I'm glad you asked me the question. And, back to Tyler, it was a very tight competition. They both hit some big kicks, but just beyond the field goals, the weapon you want to say is, being able to do kickoffs. The last scrimmage we had, I think it was like a 20-mile-an-hour wind. We had these guys kicking off into that, and he put 2 of them, just out of the back of the end zone. And we know how windy and how crazy this weather can be. To have a weapon like that, to be able to do that, is also part of the evaluation process. And so, again, he's going to have some big kicks. Is he going to make them all? Probably not. But, we thought he did enough that he earned that right. And time will tell if we made the right decision.
What can you share about, I know Heath got to go see him before the draft, but you didn't get a ton of time with him. You saw him at the Senior Bowl, but what can you share about his makeup between the ears that makes you think he can handle it?
Yeah, it's never seemed too big for him. And, I was able to get around him at the Senior Bowl. Heath went to his pro day and was around him there. And just, I think Heath knew him the best through the process, but I even talked to some of the coaches that had him at the Senior Bowl, and I watched him a lot that week as we're watching other guys, but those guys were kicking on the other end of the field sometimes, and they had him kicking some long balls and just doing some different things. And you just not only did you see the leg strength, you saw the accuracy, but back to your point, we saw a young man that seems to be very mentally strong, and he's missed some kicks here, and Shawn's put him back in another situation, and he's come back and made the next kick. We haven't seen it be a domino effect. Misses one, misses two, misses three. Again, you can't replicate true games, but again, I think Shawn did a really nice job of creating some game situations, and his teammates tried to put some pressure on him, chirping at him on some of these big kicks of what it would mean, whether it's 10 minutes less meeting times or things like that for these guys. So, there's only so much you can do, but, we're very confident in what he showed us before he got here and then since he's arrived here, for training camp.
Thanks, Brandon.
Thanks, Matt. Last one, according to Coach Boyko here.
Hey, Brandon. It's Jay with the Buffalo News. How you doing?
Good, Jay.
Good. My question is sort of similar to what you've been asked, but your expectations for this year are raised, and whether that's among us in the media or fans, you guys are being picked to win the division. All of those kinds of things that maybe haven't been the case, and the nobody believes in us card is one that's going to be tough for this team to play. How do you deal with entering a season where so much is expected of you, and how does that maybe alter, or does it have to alter your approach?
No, I think at the end of the day, we have to stick with what there's been some earlier years here where we were predicted to win, 6, 7, 8 games, whatever the number is, not be a playoff team. Now we're, by some picked to, either win the division or get in the playoffs. But, our message has always been, those are predictions from the outside. We control what we do here. And again, until we win the AFC East, it's going to be a hard road. It's hard to go on the road and win, 3 playoff games to get to that Super Bowl. So the best route here, if you look back in the 90s, those Bills teams, they were winning and hosting. And nobody wants to play here in January. We know that. We know it would be a big-time advantage, not only with our fans, but the weather conditions. So, again, we know that we control it in-house, and we will have to be ready. We're not going to sneak up on anyone. People are, mentioning us as a team that would be in the playoffs or win the division. So how do we fare as the hunted versus the hunter? And, time will tell.
Thanks. And then lastly, can you clarify, you mentioned Isaiah Hodgins there, is there a fear that this could be something long-term beyond the minimum on IR and, possibly have his season be in jeopardy? Can you give any more clarification on that?
Yeah, he has something that may require surgery at some point, but not right now. We're just going to try and let it calm down, let him get some strength in his shoulder and see where it goes. He battled hard and finished camp with it, but I do think it was affecting him a little bit. And so we'll see at some point, if we need to shut him down, we will. But right now we're going to try this approach and see if he, if he's able to come back and help us should we need him, through the season.